another song. There's no need to go berserk, just write another song. Do this so that you won't go insane. And when you've done it, turn the page and do it all again. Your sanity, just write another song. Half the work is showing up to write another song. If all else be vanity, go write another song. I'm gonna put off growing up to write another song. I do this so that I don't go insane. And when I've done it, I go back and do it all again. Good evening, good evening, good evening. Hello to Riako Music. Welcome to Write Another Song with Chris Harris. Yes, I've got new opening credits, hot off the presses today, what I did earlier. And watching them now, I really should have shaved before I did all the filming. Mike Tango Charlie, good evening to you too, sir. I hope you're all doing well. I know Mel is deep in the installation process of software on her new machine, and I'm getting excited vicariously as a third-party spectator. It's rather splendid. And Array of, good evening to Array of Emotions as well. Yes. New machines, new software, new opening credits, new show, new title, new everything. Riako Music says it's a pain in the arse. Well, yeah, but the idea is you don't have to do it that often. But yeah, I think when I installed Live 11, the total download count came to something around 40 gigabytes. Yeah. So that's a thing that happens every few years. Anyway, I hope you are all doing splendidly. I'm doing a lot better today, a lot better this weekend than I have been doing recently. And part of that was just getting to the point where I gave myself a kick up the backside and said, look, you're not wallowing, you're not going to be miserable, go off and stream. So I was back on Twitch for 2.5 hours yesterday afternoon, and was accompanied there by Stupid UK guy who swung by to give me moral support, and I put together a piece of music from scratch. And that got me thinking about this show, because it's called Write Another Song, right? So I thought really what I ought to do on these shows on Sunday nights and make them completely different to the Thursday shows is quite simply write another song on each Sunday night show. So that is what I will be doing shortly. Yeah, you see, I've even thought this through and rehearsed. Sorry, I think we were out running errands yesterday. No, it was completely impromptu, and it was just something that I kind of more or less did for me rather than anybody else, if truth be told. But I need to get back in the saddle. I've taken my foot off the gas since February album writing month finished. And quite frankly, we've had enough of that. Thank you very much. It's time to start writing songs again. And been having a think, really. That got me thinking quite heavily about the habit of writing songs, of routines, of, habit. If you do something for, I think they say it's about 6 weeks, it starts to become ingrained as a habit. But if you take the gas off, if you lift your foot off the accelerator pedal, it all goes to pot, because that's what happened to me over March. But it's now April. So what are we thinking about what happened? What is it that stops you just sitting down and writing a song? And I came up with 5 pretty major things that can stop you writing a song. For me, the first one, and yeah, I'm an old guy, I'm a grown up, I'm an adult, I do adult stuff, you may be surprised to learn, was fear. And that is basically the underlying question of, what if I can't do this anymore? All right, I've written something on the order of 850 odd songs since I signed up for February Album Writing Month back in 2009. But it had been a month since I wrote anything much, and yeah, it's a thing. Does the muse desert you? Does your creative urge evaporate? So fear is one thing. Second thing, and it's a thing that Mel and I have talked about many times on our streams, is imposter syndrome. It's like, well, what gives me the right to do a show about songwriting? It's like, I'm not a multi-million-dollar selling artist. I do not have any gold records on the wall. Yeah, imposter syndrome is a big thing in people that I know who are proper professional artists, and they still feel the same way. So if they still feel the same way, I'm totally cool with it. I have to get over it. I have to get over myself and just say, look, as Array of Emotion says, imposter syndrome is a bitch. Ryako Music says it sucks so much. It does. And it can stop you. It can choke that urge to create. And certainly over March, for me, it did exactly that. And the converse of imposter syndrome, and this is something that I would totally put my hand up and say, is to do with ego, which is to say, well, I don't want to make a fool of myself, but I'm just going to look ridiculous if I put my head above the parapet and actually go live on air and say, okay, I am a songwriter. Here is me practicing what I do. But again, you've just got to commit and say, well, I don't care if people don't think I'm allowed to be a songwriter. Stuff it. I'm going to write songs. And frankly, if they don't like it, well, too bad. Which is why I want to move the show on Sunday night into praxis, into saying, okay, do a lot of shows. I've been doing these shows, I've been doing Thursday night show now it'll be 48 weeks on Thursday. And quite frankly, I've got to walk the walk as well as talking the talk. Fatigue. Yeah, this week, good grief, I was knackered. It's been a rough week. For some of us, it's been rougher than others. But I just got to the point on Saturday afternoon where it's like, right, enough of the wallowing, enough of being tired. Just get your butt in gear and get on with it. And fortunately, I was in the case, and thank you to Tim Fatchen for a very, very nice message of support over on Facebook, because the fifth thing that gets in my way to stop me writing songs is depression, of literally just lying in bed going, you know what, I just can't. And it's okay to feel that on occasional days and just have a duvet day. But if you're having those days every week, as I've been doing for the past 3 or 4 weeks, then I'm kind of thinking I need to go and see the doctor. And I'm feeling better now, but if that's just me through willpower trying to power through it, that doesn't usually work for very long. So I'm keeping a weather eye on it. Riako Music says, I know that depression, mate. Yeah, you and me both. It's not nice. But I got through it on Saturday, went online, went onto Twitch on Saturday afternoon, and came up with something. And because of the stuff on television on Friday, Saturday, it was still happening on Saturday, I've called it obsequious. And we'll come back to titles and words and stuff like that in a minute. But for the moment, let me see, there it is. Yeah, up there. Let's screen share you properly. So this is the Ableton live set that I started putting together on Saturday afternoon and finished the stream, went and got something to eat, had a glass of wine, and then came back and said, nah, don't like the middle bit. So as I have been doing on a regular basis, I pulled it apart and redid it, but that really won't make sense to you if you've not heard the original on Saturday. You can watch the stream; it's still up on Twitch. But this is Obsequious version 2, which is the version that I've pretty much finished. me being me, not doing anything by halves. You know, if you're gonna play a piece of music or record a piece of music to get over something like that, then do a piece of music that's 7.5 minutes long. But that's called obsequious, because it was kind of the mindset I was in. And it's, yeah, Riaka Music says that's a nice instrumental, and I like that you changed it up in sections. I've been doing that a lot recently because I want to get, and again, going back to streams of days gone by, want to get into the sync licensing stuff. So I want to take an idea and play around with it and then invert it and then maybe just have movements. And yeah, it's 7.5 minutes long, but it doesn't do the same thing for 7.5 minutes because that would be boring. And we don't like boring on the Write Another Song show, which is why we want to write another song every time we do the show, which is kind of where I'll be coming from later on in tonight's show. There's some lovely discussion in the chat about what you do if you're feeling a bit low. And Riaka Music says baking. Because if you bake something, you get food at the end. And as I said at the time, and who doesn't like baked goods, to be honest? And Riaka Music specialises in cinnamon rolls. And nobody in their right mind is going to turn down cinnamon rolls. I bloody love cinnamon rolls. And my pervading memory of living and working in Tampa in Florida would be going to the shopping mall on the Friday after work and just being assailed by the smell of the local branch of Cinnabon, which was a cinnamon roll manufacturer baker that had outlets in all the big malls in the Tampa area. And I am sure they had industrial fans that would just blast the scent of cinnamon rolls at you as soon as you walk through the doors. And it's Pavlovian conditioning, man. You know, it's Friday. I'm going to have a cup of coffee and a cinnamon roll because it's the weekend. So, yes, cinnamon rolls definitely help depression in moderation, because otherwise you start putting on weight and then that makes you feel sad and you're back to square one. So let's not do that. Point of those 5 things: fear, imposter syndrome, ego, fatigue, depression, is that you've got to stare them in the face and just do it anyway. I know it's difficult. I know that it's not something, especially when you're depressed, it's not something that comes easy. But you have to just make an effort. Seeing your doctor does help. And if you are feeling very, very down and literally of the what's the point state, then take it from one who knows. Go see your doctor. Do not suffer in silence. Do not suffer on your own. So, having said all that, my creative engines seem to have a lot of inertia. So when they stop, they stay stopped. And it took a 7.5 minute piece of music to get them beginning to move again. There's a lot of scraping and grinding noises going on, I have to say. So it's not been easy, which is another reason why I want to take some time towards the end of this show to actually start writing a song live on air in front of all you lovely people. Rev Emotion says, I can attest to the putting on weight bit. It is part of life. As you get older, your tendency to put on weight will become larger and more powerful and stronger. So just think of it as a superpower, that you can just sit in a chair and gain 3 pounds. Because it is, quite frankly, that's the way it goes when you get to my age. But anyway, because I need to give my creativity a boost, and because I need to up the rate at which I am writing songs for 5090 the prequel, which, if you remember, is another version of the Write 50 Songs in 90 Days, but it's not 5090, which writes 50 songs in the 90 days between July the 4th and October the 1st. It's 5090 the prequel, which is you write 50 songs in the 90 days from April the 4th to July the 3rd, and then power straight on through into 5090. So effectively you're writing 100 songs in 180 days. And I want to use these shows to prove you that you can do that. It's not crazy. I am aware of people who write entire albums in a weekend, or in some cases 24 hours. Let's not run before we can walk, eh? So let's just take things slow, one song at a time. So that was my third song of 5090 the prequel. Good evening, stupid UK guy. Hello, hello. Yeah, so songwriting. If I can write songs, if I can write 50 songs in 90 days, then so can you. I'm nothing special. I may have a room full of gear, but that's kind of not the point. The point is leveraging your creative urges and turning them into music and making your own stuff. So that's what I'm going to be doing on the show. So before I actually start putting together a song from scratch, I want to talk a little bit about preparing to write a song. So Stupid UK guy says, is this 50 songs in 90 days something you started or something you want more people to do? No, I joined in. So February album writing month was started by Burr Settles and a bunch of lovely people, including Jen and Eric Distad. And it's been going 15, 16 years now. So it started in the mid-noughts. I signed up, I think, on either its fourth or fifth year, and just saw the light. It's something that has completely transformed the way I approach music, the way I approach creating, writing, recording, producing, whatever music. And after I'd been doing February album writing month for a few years, I realised that Jen and Eric had their own version of the February album writing month challenge, which was 5090, which basically got people through the sort of creative dip in the summer. And the first year I signed up for it, I wrote 50 songs, and I've written at least 50 songs every summer since. And yeah, it's just something that I have great fun doing. And any musician that I know, I would just heartily encourage them to sign up for it, because not only does it get you off your butt creatively speaking and actually force you to sit down and write a song, it also gives you feedback. And that is the huge power of February album writing month and 5090, is that you will get people who will respond to your songs, and they'll leave comments to your songs. And after a while you start getting savvy and realizing, oh, that song, that really got people responding, and that one kind of didn't. So maybe that's the sort of song that I ought to be writing. And you get feedback. You get people enthusing about what they liked. If you're open and you solicit honest feedback, you can get people telling you, well, that bridge was a bit weak, or dude, that mix sucked balls. So you get what you ask for. As stupid UK guy says, show me what you got. Mike Tango Charlie says, my level of musicality is Rick and Marty level. You're listening to Earth Radio and now human music. Yeah, but without naming names, there are people who are pretty much that level making stuff on February Album Writing Month and 5090 and having a whale of a time, and more to the point, being supported. Okay, there was outrage a few years ago when a new musician signed up, and he is still talked about. He's become a pariah, and he left a comment on somebody's song that just said, "Shit's weak, dog." And from then on, that person, not mentioning names, but that person will forever be the shit's weak dog guy on February Album Writing Month. And that is just so not how we encourage each other on February Album Writing Month or 5090. And yeah, he's not active anymore, funnily enough. But yeah, right, the chat's now gone off into Rick and Morty quotes, so I'll let them get on a bit. I was talking about preparing to write songs. Okay, so everything's computerized, everything's online, there are loads of resources online, yes, and we'll cover some of the invaluable resources that are available online as these shows progress. But if you live in your own place, there are a number of dead tree publications that I think, if you are aspiring to write lyrics, to become a songwriter, to express your ideas coherently and in an entertaining way and concisely, because it's a song, it's not a thesis, it's not a dissertation, it's not a novel. You've got 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, all right, 7.5 minutes for the instrumental, but you've got a limited amount of time to communicate what you need to communicate, and you need to do it well, and you need to do it clearly, and you need to not have your mangling of the language getting in the way. So if your household does not have a dictionary, you need to get that sorted pretty quickly, right? I've got dictionaries all over the place, but the one I've got here, which is the one that I used to use at work, which is why it had my name written on it, the Oxford Encyclopedic English Dictionary. It's not entirely comprehensive, but it's pretty darn good, right? So, and it's under 20 quid. Really, that's the sort of, if you're a Brit, then the Oxford dictionaries are kind of a go-to. If you're in the States, then get a copy of Funk and Wagnalls or something like that. Get a pretty hefty desk dictionary, because you might need it. If it's not just to look up how a slightly weird word is spelt, then there might be a case where you actually want to check that the word that you think you want to use is actually the word that you should be using. And I don't know if you've seen it. It's been kicking around on the net for a few years now, but there is a press clipping from the sports pages in the United States of a rookie baseball player's first season. And this baseball player could pitch with his left hand and with his right hand. Okay, fair enough. It's unusual. It was so unusual that the reporter and whoever was editing the article, and the meme went viral And the headline on this news article, with a picture of the pitcher throwing with his left arm, just said, amphibious pitcher makes debut. Get a dictionary, kids. So apart from a dictionary, I have some great recommendations for you. This is called English Usage and Abusage. It was originally written by a guy called Eric Partridge, but really it's become a franchise now. You don't have to go to, well, I mean, once they open again, you can go to them. Secondhand bookstores. I picked this up for £2, right? It's how not to make a fool of yourself in English. So if you're thinking about using, say, the word autocracy or autonomy, you look it up in Partridge's English Usage and Abusage, and it will say autocracy and autonomy are occasionally confused. For example, and this is it, Partridge names and shames people. And some of the people who make the pages of this august publication were quite famous. But in here it says, George Riley Scott, in The History of Corporal Punishment, twice misuses the latter for the former. The meaning of autocracy is absolute government by an individual or a paramount authority, and of autonomy, the right of a state or institution to govern itself. So one's kind of the opposite of the other. So Trump was an autocrat. California were talking about declaring autonomy and not being involved. So you can look up stuff like that. Jingles, unintentional rhymes. In prose, avoid these unsought, infelicitous solicitors of sense. He really does love his alliteration, does Mr. Partridge. Avoid them anywhere. In most prose, and more than we ordinarily suppose, the opening words have to wait for those that follow. That's I.A. Richards in The Philosophy of Rhetoric. This affords an excellent example of how not to write prose that is intended to be either effective or melodious. This is the fault noticed by Alexander Bain when in Part 2 of English Composition and Rhetoric he says, unpleasing are iterations within words or at the end of words, indulgent parent, uniform formality, instead of a steady, he is tempted to attempt. And yet those are all things that you could quite easily put in a song, because the song's a different style of writing to English. So you kind of have to know the rules, but that's not to say you have to always use them. You can break them. Like Tango Charlie says, can you declare yourself an autonomous autocracy? Hey, anarchy, right? Rock on. If you're in the States, then Hart's Rules is a must. It's a style guide for English writers. It tells you where a full stop goes in a sentence, whether you put a full stop inside or outside quotation marks, when to use an apostrophe. Right, and that, we could do an entire show all about apostrophe abuse. Songwriting. Don't know if you've ever I've mentioned this before. Walker's Rhyming Dictionary of the English Language. Right, this is a supplement to this. This is, quite a chunky book. Supplements the same size, so it could quite easily have been called Volume 2. So we've already covered the dictionary. Walker's is kind of a dictionary backwards, and I mean that quite literally, because the words in it, and it is pages and pages of words with a very, very quick one-sentence definition of what the word means, are organised A at the beginning, to Z at the back, but it's not the first letter A at the beginning, Z at the back. It's the last letter of the word. So it's organising the words by the endings. So, for instance, if I turn to, all right, I've just opened this page at random, Genesis. So all the words ending ESIS are all grouped together because you can rhyme them. It's just brilliant idea. So Genesis, what rhymes with Genesis? Homogenesis, thermogenesis, organogenesis, parthenogenesis, xenogenesis. It's kind of there. It's like, well, aren't there any that are not Genesis? Well, yeah, you've got hypothesis, prosthesis, emesis, nemesis. So you get the idea. Is there a word that rhymes with penguin? Yes, there is. There's Gadwin, which is an essential constituent of cod liver oil, and there's Bedouin, which is a nomadic Arab. You get the idea. So if you're stuck for a word, you can look it up. So if there wasn't a word in the first one, then you might find it in the supplement. But some of the words are a little bit niche, to say the least. Even though the endings might be the same, they don't always work from a rhyming point of view, because I've just opened this and you have panache, which ends A-C-H-E, but the next word above it is papier-mâché, which still ends in A-C-H-E, but is pronounced completely different. And then underneath you've got Apache, followed immediately by earache. So yeah, you've got to know how to pronounce stuff, which is another reason why you need a dictionary, because dictionaries have the phonetic pronunciation of words. And if you learn language primarily by reading stuff, then it can trip you up. So I used to be in a band with another musician, and he would always talk about putting together a sieg in the live set of the band that we were rehearsing for. And it took me ages to figure out that when he said sieg, he meant segue, because it's written sieg. It's written S-E-G-U-E. But it's pronounced segue. So then, if you really want to get you fired up your creative engines, get a dictionary of quotations. I've had this one kicking around in here for donkey's years, and it just lists by author famous quotations. So I mean, there are pages and pages and pages of Kipling and Keats and Johnson. That's Dr. Johnson, not Boris Johnson. And James, William James, the moral flabbiness born of the bitch goddess success. That, with the squalid cash interpretation put on the word success, is our national disease. That was William James writing to Herbert George Wells. Lovely. Robert Fitzsimmons, born 1862, died 1917. Said before his fight with Jeffries in San Francisco, 9th of June 1899, by which I infer that he was probably a boxer. And his quotation, which made the Oxford Dictionary of Quotations, and yes, it's the same Oxford Dictionaries as in the Oxford Dictionary, Robert Fitzsimmons' big quote, the only entry he gets in the dictionary: the bigger they come, the harder they fall. I mean, there's a song in that. Surely, well, I know there's a song in that. Again, with the Eric Partridge, the other name that I'd really recommend grabbing hold of is a copy of that. Fowler's Modern English Usage. It's how not to make an idiot of yourself. There is a tendency in this part of the world for people to misuse the word Pacific when what they actually meant to say was specific. Yes, I wish I was joking, but that is true. It is a thing down here that people say, can you be more Pacific? And it's like, well, I'm quite laid back, but Ryako Music says, no! And that was exactly my response. But no word of a lie. That's what they do round here. Fowlers will disabuse you of any tendencies to do that sort of shit. Just cut that crap out, right? And then go around second-hand bookstores and junk shops and find weird stuff, because it might come in useful. And that's one of the reasons I bought this. Monsieur Serlot's Dictionary of Symbols, which, right, I mean, it's arguably complete bullshit, but there are explanations and essays on everything from you can't see that. Abracadabra, where the word abracadabra came from. What the meaning is of the abyss when you're having a dream or putting it in a novel. It says the abyss in any form has a fascinating dual significance. On one hand, it is a symbol of depth in general. Duh. On the other, a symbol of inferiority. The attraction of the abyss lies in the fact that these two aspects are inextricably linked together. Most ancient or primitive peoples have at one time or another identified certain breaks in the Earth's surface or marine depths with the abyss. Among the Celts and other peoples, the abyss was inside mountains. In Ireland, aren't the Irish Celts? Japan and the South Sea Islands, it was at the bottom of seas and lakes. Among Mediterranean peoples, it was just beyond the horizon. For the Australian Aborigines, the Milky Way is the abyss par excellence. The abyss is usually identified with the land of the dead, the underworld, and is hence, though not always, associated with the Great Mother and Earth God cults. And yeah, I opened this at random before we came on air this evening and went completely down the rabbit hole and looked up, and it was 9 o'clock and I hadn't even started the starting shortly footage on it. So reference manuals like that are fertile ground for coming up with ideas. Mike Tango Charlie says, just don't ever say I could care less. If you're not aware of it, you know Blurred Lines, Robin Thicke's hit single. Well, Weird Al Yankovic did his version of Blurred Lines, and there is a YouTube video for it. It's called Word Crimes, and it is Weird Al Yankovic basically taking the contents of Fowler and Partridge and setting them to the melody of Robin Thicke's Blurred Lines. It's called Word Crimes. It's on YouTube. It is the best music video that I have seen in the 21st century, without question. So do check it out, because yeah, it's absolutely spot on. And Mike Tango Charlie's bugbear of people saying I could care less, because that means that you could care less, which therefore negates the reason of saying the statement in the first place, is one of the targets that Weird Al Yankovic aims at and hits quite spectacularly during his video. So Word Crimes, Weird Al Yankovic, YouTube. Go see it. I'll put the link up on the show links when I upload this on YouTube tomorrow. Shall we write a song? Let's go back to Ableton, shall we? So, first thing, Ableton will load as a default a set. Okay, that's kind of not rocket science, but you can create that set in advance that has all your favorite tools and plugins already set up. And that's what we've got here. So I have a drums submix at the top, which has Superior Drummer, which is my drum software of choice, all ready to go, with my favourite drum kit of choice, which is from the Metal Foundry software expansion pack for Superior Drummer, which is called an SDX, Superior Drummer Expansion. Okay, there's a drum kit in that, which is called Dev Kit, which is what Devin Townsend uses. All hail Devin for his songwriting. So I was saying after Array of Emotions said, you've got to check out Sepultura's new video, which has Devin Townsend singing in it. And as I said on Thursday's show, I watched it, and not only has Devin now treated himself to a Shure SM7B, one of these, he'd actually got it on a Rode PSA 1 monitor arm, which is what this thing is that mine's on. So it's like, oh. Once I learnt that trick in Logic, I almost cried, said stupid UK guy. It took me, no word of a lie, it took me 6 years to actually get to the point where I could really make life easier for myself if I just had templates that had like the Spitfire Audio BBC Symphony Orchestra ready to go. And then I found that Spitfire Audio actually have aforementioned templates for the BBC Symphony Orchestra, for Abbey Road 1, for most of their other large symphony or orchestral or choral packs, available all zipped up on their website as downloads for Ableton, for Logic, for Cubase, for a whole bunch of other DAWs. And Muggins here had spent years just going, oh, well, I'll just drop in Tune Track and I'll drop in this. No, don't do that, kids. Set up a template, have all your stuff ready to go. And you can set the default tempo. I've got this is 130. I'm feeling a bit energetic today because I've had quite a lot of caffeine, because if you saw the opening credits of the show, they start off with me saying, woke up this morning, and there's a montage of me making coffee. So, of course, I had to make coffee and film myself making coffee, and it'd be churlish not to drink it afterwards. So I did. And then I had an iced coffee with my tea. So, yeah, I'm quite caffeinated today, it has to be said, which is probably one of the reasons why I'm still going. And it's now an hour and 6 minutes into the show, and I haven't really flagged yet. And really, I haven't even started yet. So let's kind of move on, shall we? So to save time. Okay. What do I start off with a song? In most cases, I've kind of got a title. Riaka Music says, can't waste good coffee. No, of course you can't. And it was quite splendid coffee, I have to say. Yeah, what do I start with a song? In most cases, I say most cases, it varies tremendously. Sometimes I can't think of anything. I am literally a blank canvas. I have no preconceptions as to what I'm going to come up with when I sit down at Ableton and open up a new set like I've just done with this one. So in those cases, what I will normally do is fire up Superior Drummer and then go to my Grooves library and okay, I'm gonna make things simple, so we're gonna stick with 4/4. I don't always, as the opening credits said, you know, I've been referred to as the Bob Ross of prog metal, but I do like me weird time signatures, and I've got a bunch of weird time signatures in here. So, you know, if 9/8, 11/8, if I wanted 11/8, then I could play something in 11/8. But let's stick with 4/4, shall we? So, Tune Track are having a sale at the moment. I would point this out. They had a couple of MIDI packs available as expansions for either Superior Drummer or Easy Drummer this weekend only, so you can still get them. They're just literally just MIDI packs, and there was a heavy metal one, but there was also the Arena Rock MIDI expansion pack for €10. So it's like, oh, go on then. So I treated myself to the Arena Rock expansion pack, which is performed, as it says there, by Martin Christofferson. And you get, some mid-tempo stuff, some up-tempo stuff. So I've set the tempo at 144 beats per minute, so it's fairly caffeinated. So we've got something here called Dark Dancing, which is rated at 149 BPM, although you can make it faster or slower. All right, I'm not totally obsessed with making the drums sound as if it's vaguely plausible that a human drummer would be playing them. So, plus or minus 20, 30 BPM, most of the time it's like, yeah, that'll do. So, what have we got with Dark Dancing? So, what's the verse like on this? I think we have a winner. I like that. That, to me, is exactly the sort of rock beat that I think a nice heavily caffeinated song at 144 beats per minute should have. Now, I will say something about the drums, because the dev kit that you've got there won't actually sound like that if you buy Superior Drummer. If you buy the Metal Foundry expansion pack and select dev kit, it won't sound like that if you buy the Arena Rock MIDI pack for €10 this weekend, because I've been messing about with it quite a lot. So the actual dev kit sounds like this. So it's quite different, isn't it? Because I'm a big fan of 80s production. So, first thing, Ryako Music, heads up, you are going to love this, because this is part of Live. Well, you've only got Live 9 until you installed Live 11. Live 9 did not have the Drum Bus audio plugin. And Drum Bus will work wonders with your drum tracks. So let's play that loop again, and then I'm going to enable the Drum Bus with its Transient Shaping Enhance preset. So literally, and it's 100% wet. So here's without drum bus. Let's drop drum bus on it. So that does make it a lot louder. It's probably about 4 dB louder, and it's also quite shouty. So I'm going to drop the dry wet mix back to about 80%. But the other thing that I do is I am all about the gated drums. So what I've done is that I've created another audio track in my drums submix, which is called gated reverb. So what that does is it takes the audio from Superior Drummer, post the effects, and it puts them into a separate audio track. And then on this audio track, that send from the Superior Drummer it's post effects, so it gets the transient shaping. I drop a huge reverb on it. So if I just solo the gated drums, you can hear what it's doing. So I need to, well, I like that beat, so I'm actually going to drop that beat in. And we'll have quite a few minutes of it, I think, because 144 beats per minute. We're probably going to be done and dusted in under 4 minutes, aren't we? So let's drop that at 4 minutes. I'm going to go back to Superior Drummer 3 because it has a whole bunch of extras which are really useful, because it will let me just have a 1 bar count in of 4/4. So there we go. So let's go back to Arena Rock and let's go back to Dark Dancing and Verse. So now I have a whole bunch of drums with a 1 bar count in at the beginning. And so let's now go back to what that will sound like with the reverb. So yeah, I mean that's pretty powerful. It's pretty rock, but it does sound a bit like it's coming out of the bottom end of a very, very, very large dustbin. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to add a noise gate to that. So basically when the noise drops below a specific level, which is what that little grey line is on that, it will turn off the signal completely. So what that tends to do, because the snare is usually the loudest thing on a drum kit, is that when the snare decays, then this will suddenly cut off the signal. So hear the difference when I enable it. And you don't hear anything at the moment. Oh, there you go. So you got one snare. If I enable the other drum kit as well, still not working, is it? So that means I have to change the threshold. So let's solo it again. Whoops. Let's solo it again and we'll drop the threshold down. That's pretty much there. I'm going to just nudge that down to minus 12.5. 12.9 rather. So now if I combine the two together, you get that classic 1980s drum sound. Well, I think we're there. So there's me drum kit. There's me drums. There's my rather shouty. So remember I said drum bus pushes everything up by like a few dB. Let's bring it right down. So we'll bring it back 5.5 dB. So has that messed up my gated drums? It shouldn't have done, because I'm using a submix rather than individual tracks. I'm adjusting the mix on the summed group, so it shouldn't make any difference. And it doesn't, so we're good. Stupid UK guy says, could hear a screeching saxophone lead over that drum line. I've got a saxophone plug-in. If we've got time, I may even do a mock saxophone solo. But over here, if I just go over to Studio Cam, have I got the Studio Cam button there? No, I don't think I have. So over here on the M3, so need to turn the Korg up. I've got a whole bunch of really, really nice brass samples. Lots of trombones. Should have got some nice trumpets. Where's me saxophones? There's the French horns. There we go. Nice soprano sax. Baritone sax. So yes, we can definitely do sax. There you go, says Stupid UK. That thing, the brass on that. It was only when I got the Spitfire BBC Symphony Orchestra that I moved away from using the M3's brass sections, because they are superb. There's a Sforzando brass section, and you can hear it on stuff that I've done for most of the last 10, 12 years, because I've had that 10 years now, I think. More than 10 years. But yeah, so we can do sax. So hold that thought. Conscious of time, because it's getting late, I know, for you guys in Europe. But so what I'll do is I'll crack on with this. I'll keep talking through and blathering away about what I'm doing until the top of the hour, if that's good for you folks. And so we'll see what we can come up with in an hour. Well, 40 odd minutes from now. So let's see what happens. So yeah, songwriting. When I'm not sure what I'm going to come up with, drum tracks usually a fairly good place where I'll start. Stupid UK guy says crack on. Good. Right, so back to presenter mode. There's me 4 minutes of drums. 4 minutes and a bit. I like the fact that in Superior Drummer, I don't know if you can see that on the stream, but there are little ticks where the pattern repeats, and those will become important once I put together what the structure of the song is. So another thing that I use an awful lot is locators. So I'm going to start, and another thing, past years, and this is the thing that I think really took the impact off a lot of my songs, is I would start the song with like an instrumental introduction of 4 bars, sometimes 8 bars, sometimes even 16 bars. So by the time the lyrics come in, a lot of people have got bored. And I certainly had when I was listening to them afterwards. So one thing that I've really learnt to do over the last 18 months, and certainly over the last 6 months of doing the tail end of 5090 last year, and then the solo albums, which frankly a lot of them were instrumentals, but I'm so grateful for locators, says Riaka Music, especially if you're doing different kinds of sections. They just help me keep track of where I am, because I can then drop in guitar solos, for instance, at the appropriate point, the pre-chorus. But point I'm making is now I start with the verse. I go bang straight into it. Verse, get to the chorus as quickly as possible. Graham, I've forgotten his surname, but basically the Recording Revolution guy. He says, get to the chorus as quickly as you can. And I thought that's just being silly. That people aren't that sort of challenged for attention spans. That oh yes, they are. And he was right. And not only was he right about other people, he was right about me and my response to my music doing that as well. So Graham, thank you. I didn't believe you, but you are not lying when you say get to the chorus as quickly as possible. Get to the message, get to the point. Don't make people wait, especially not if you're just pontificating and not really furthering what you're doing. If that's the case, that's fat. Get rid of it. Cut it out. You don't want it. Your listeners certainly don't want it. So, bang in. 4 count, straight into verse 1. So, now's the difficult bit. Okay, what are we going to do? I haven't even come up with a title yet. I suppose when we're going to save, and this is the other thing, another top tip from Chris here, because he speaks as one who it's bitten him on the bum more than once, is save your work often. And yes, I know Ableton and most other DAWs have an autosave feature, and if your DAW does crash around your knees, and yes, I wrote a song about that during February Album Writing Month because Ableton 10 was doing that with me, then saving your live set is very, very important. So we've got 5090 the prequel. So there we go. So what are we going to call this? What's my song going to be? So what am I going to write this song about? Well, we've talked about inertia, haven't we? About wanting to, well, there you go. About wanting to move on. About wanting to get going. So how about moving on from standing still? That'll do as a thumbnail title to be going on with. So, and it's catchy because it's kind of one thing fighting the other. And this is going to be track 4 for HFO's efforts for 5090, and if people are downloading my stuff or putting it on a file hosting service, then leaving spaces can sometimes mess people's systems up. So, another tip: always put your artist name in, or something that identifies you as an originator, in the file name, because when you upload the WAV file, if somebody's just got that WAV file on their phone or their music player and it's just the name of the song title, and you haven't put any metadata in the MP3 file, then how are they going to know that it's you and you have other stuff that they might want to listen to? So always put your name in the file name of the track. I use HFO because it's kind of identifiable as me, and yes, I do put full metadata in any piece of music that I put on the web. And as an aside, I even used to do this back in the day, in the early 90s, when all I created and put online were MIDI files that you played back using your Windows sound card. And I created a MIDI file of the X-Men theme tune, and it was only about 35k, but I uploaded it to, I forgot what, I think it was an internet in Usenet group that was talking about theme tunes, and I said, I've done this MIDI file, and I still find it occasionally in the web. It's still kicking around because it got shared and shared and shared, and it's still got my original internet email address, chris@headfirst.demon.co.uk, and I have not been on Demon now for 15 years, but it still crops up, and it's rather gratifying that I can say, yeah, well, that's me. Look, it's got my Headfirst email address in it. So always tag your stuff, because you never know what piece of music you create, even if it's a cover of something else, some other person's music. Somebody might go, oh, that's really good. I wonder if he's done any other stuff. Yes, I have. It's all on Bandcamp. There you go. See, I love my Stream Deck. So yes, so we have, because it's song number 4, I've got HFO in the song title. I'm using underscores to separate the words, and I'm going to call it Moving On From Standing Still. So save. Job's a good one. There we go. Okay, so now we've saved. Moving On From Standing Still. What am I on about here? Right. At this point, it looks like my subconscious is basically saying, okay, this is lyrics first, because now you've come up with that idea and you've kind of been talking about that subject in the show. Then perhaps now's the sort of moment where you should get your notepad and paper out and a freshly filled fountain pen, and maybe rattle down a few sort of ballpark ideas for lines. That's kind of got to go in the chorus, hasn't it? I'm moving on from standing still. And it's probably going to be the last line of the chorus. So if I put a little bit down here, I've put a C down for chorus, and the last line is going to be, I'm moving on from standing still. And really, I know it's predictable, but we're going with predictable to start with because we can always rewrite. This is a first draft. You don't have to submit the first draft as a finished work. That's the lesson that I learnt over the last year, despite having been doing songwriting now for the best part of 3 decades. It's like, yeah, revise. If you come up with a better line later on, then re-record it and use the better line. Why wouldn't you? So, but predictable, standing still, and given the state that I'm in at the moment with 1.3 centimetre stone in my left kidney and a cyst on the other, and I'm just generally a bit ill, so I can basically say I'm tired, something like I'm tired of being ill, but I'm moving on from standing still has got a nice meter to it. So how many syllables are we talking here? Well, I'm moving on from standing still, so it's 8. So I kind of want something, then 8 syllables, then something, then 8 syllables. Riaka Music says 8. Yeah, so I've had enough of being ill. Will work as another 8 line. So now we've got, and I'm probably going to stick with an A-B rhyming scheme in the chorus. So rhyming schemes, basically the world's your lobster, as Arthur Daly would say. And if you listen to my track Dodgy Geezer, which you can hear on my February album writing month page, you can hear him say it because I actually used that line in one of my songs. But the Thursday night show, I used a rhyming scheme which is basically AA, 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 AA. So 8 lines all ending in the same rhyme, which was fun and unusual, and people really loved it because it's different. It's not what people are expecting. So play with people's expectations, sure, but I think for a chorus in this, it's going to be 4 lines. It's going to be A, B, A, B, and the B lines are going to be ill and still. So what am I going to say before I say I've had enough of being ill? Yeah, might think about that for a bit. So let's, for verse 1, what am I trying to say in the original verse? What Rabem Zif says, you pulling my socks up, I love you. Thank you. This is the point in songwriting where I start looking for the emotional component and message rather than thinking of words. Exactly. Because the emotion of this is basically someone, i.e. me, because the authorial voice here is not really going to be disguised, is it? Someone who's basically fed up of the status quo. Someone who is frustrated and not exactly feeling sorry for themselves, but they've reached that tipping point. They've reached the point where frustration has finally kicked in enough to motivate them to do something about what's going on, right? So the sort of so I mean, I'm going to write down various feelings and words here. So frustration is one, and at this point, let's go, because times are moving on and I'm going to run out of time if I don't do it. Let's go over to, that's not bad, is it? I have Twitch Inspector basically set up to monitor my stream so that we've not had any trouble with buffering so far this year, so far this evening, which is good. That's 2 hours in. That's a rock solid stream. I'll take that. That's pretty good. Right, there is a fantastic songwriting resource called Rhyme Zone, which basically you type in a word like still, and then you find the words, the rhymes for it. So, and they're organized by syllables, and you can also organize by meter. So we'll come to that in a minute. So, I mean, what other hornbill, handbill, landfill, pet pill, show bill, steel mill, treadmill? Treadmill's a good one. I'm going to write that down because that could be. Because the thing about choruses, you don't have to repeat them exactly the next time you sing them. So treadmill might be a really, really good alternative for, or I like that as well. You know the drill would be a good. I mean, you know the drill is going to be the last time you sing the chorus, right? Because it's got to the point, you know the drill. I'm moving on from standing still. So, yeah, but reason that I fired up Rhyme Zone now is that it doesn't just do rhymes. So if we take frustration as the word, but rather than find rhymes, I find synonyms. And I can restrict to certain meters. So long, long, short, short, long, or stressed, unstressed. So this could be quite useful. So let's delve into, so when things have got when Rhyme Zone is my jam, says Ryako Music. It's been a steady stream. Good, glad to hear it, that it's making its way over the channel to Belgium. So, I mean, look at that. This is basically like all those words are pretty much appropriate for how the narrator is feeling in verse 1. So, I mean, you could even start with, now is the winter of my discontent. Or let's turn that round. And there's a nice opening line. I'm discontent with winter. That works for me as a first line. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So it's 7. If we do a nice 7/8 rhyming scheme. So, yeah, I'm discontent with winter. So why is he discontent with winter? What's it doing? In fact, we'll do 7/6 because you want the chorus to be different. So the chorus will be 7/8, verses will be 7/6. So I'm discontent with winter. It's left me in despair. Right, so now, of course, we've painted ourselves into a corner with winter, but we go back to Rhyme Zone and we search for rhymes. What appeals there? Splinter, perhaps, I believe. Dissing the content of winter, says Mike Tango Charlie. Yeah, I'm discontent with winter. It's left me in despair. Da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That'll do, isn't it? So it's left me in despair. We're ending up almost in sort of kind of limerick type rhyming scheme. So da 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 da. So now I've got kind of where I'm going. Rabimziv says Dusseldorf screams good night against my will, but I have to go. See you very soon. Thank you very much for joining us. And yeah, I know because it's going up for midnight where you are, as it is with Mel and David. But thank you for joining me. So we'll see you next time, mate. Right. So at this point, and yeah, it's 22:47 here. Let's just have a quick noodle with this because I can always carry on next time. but knowing me, I will probably get up tomorrow morning and in fact, no, I'm not going to use the fly because my my little Squire Telecaster got new strings, and I oiled the fingerboard because the frets were beginning to lift a bit, which is what they do if you don't oil the fingerboard enough. So yeah, this was in my local guitar shop, Intersound Guitars in Dursley, and Denver knows I have a bit of a Telecaster habit, and I walked in there one day and saw that, and he said, "Ooh, why don't you give it a go, eh?" And like an idiot, I tried playing it, and it was literally what they call 3 chords and a smile, which is you play 3 chords on it and you decide it's coming home with you, and that's exactly what happened. So, I mean, right, let's go back to, can you hear that? So my Zoom G3, it's a lovely effects pedal, but something is upsetting it because it's going zzz, zzz. You hear it? Anyway, I can hear it, says Ryako Music. Yeah, so can I. It's really bugging me. Sometimes it goes away if I just move the orientation of the strings, but yeah, I've tried multiple power supplies with that unit and it still does it. It doesn't do it on every patch. I think it's something to do with the amp simulator. So if I just see, it's even worse on that one. And yet others, there's nothing there at all. That one's... Hear how it changes? If I... So that's almost completely gone away. If I turn through 90 degrees... It's not very good, is it? But never mind. We'll use different... That'll do. So let's just very, very quickly do a sort of scratch guitar track. So what am I gonna do? So that now gives me enough of... Ooh, yeah, that really does... Don't like that at all. Really does whistle quite badly. I think we might have to have words with my effects pedal. So for the moment, what we've now got, and if I just switch to the verse vocals and turned my monitors off because I don't really want to record the backing track as well as my vocals, even if, again, this is just going to be a real scratch version of what's going on. What are we going to have for this? Content with winter, it's left me in despair. In the tank, looked in the bank to find there's nothing there. That's not going to be the end vocals, but that gives me enough of an idea of the rhythm and the structure. So now I can put the monitors back on and take my headphones off. And what I can now do is add locators for the rest of the track. There's a pre-chorus which starts at that point, and I can build that up into a proper pre-chorus. And there's the chorus. So this kind of, I don't, you got a pre-chorus, that's kind of, well, I'm going to call it an after chorus because I've no idea what it's really called. But after chorus or rest. And then we go into the verse. And that's 4 bars. So that leads me into the chorus. And then you kind of get the idea. Riaka Music says, I think you should record standing up so you give the vocals a bit more movement and energy. Oh, absolutely. And in fact, what I will do is that when it comes to doing the vocals, I probably won't use this tool. What I'll use is the Rode NT1A here, which is a condenser microphone, so it's a lot more sensitive and nuanced than the SM7B, which is a bit of a sort of one-trick pony because it's like talk radio. But, well, it's not. I'm dissing the SM7B, and I shouldn't because it's the best microphone that I own. But in terms of really pushing a vocal performance, that draws me out to work a lot harder than this does because this has made me lazy. So if I go back to presenter mode, I've now got, he said, hitting Control S to save. I have now got the bones of a song together. I've got a kind of melody. I've got an idea. I've got a first verse, got a chorus. And that's not bad going in about 40 minutes, I reckon. So, and Riaka Music says, I'm getting a bit tired. Yeah, it's midnight where you guys are, aren't you? So I think we will call it a halt for tonight. But I hope that gives you some idea of how I go about stuff in here. And thank you, especially to Mel for your input, because the whole thing about focusing on emotions and feelings and motivations and everything else is something that I need to work on more. Because it works, and good God, the seeing and hearing your score for Metropolis really underscores that tremendously. So yeah, but I'll crack on with this. We'll see what I end up with on Thursday's show, because I will be back on Thursday at 19:30 British Summer Time, which is Coordinated Universal Time +1. So it's effectively 18:30 GMT. But until then, I will bid you a very good night. I will be back here with Write Another Song, when I will attempt to write another song. Let's see if next Sunday we can get a little bit further along in the process. But until then, have a jolly good week. If you're going out and about, please wear a mask, please obey social distancing rules. And as always, look after yourselves, look after each other, stay well, stay safe, stay sane, stay Wayne. And I will see you on Thursday. Take care.